and it's looking green.
Alrighty, guys, we are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome to all those listening on YouTube. Hello. And we are the Information War group on Steemit. So make sure you go sign up for Steemit and join our group at Information War. And it's on steemit.com, STEEMIT.com. Patient Zero hanging out in the Discord chat with us tonight. What up? Drinking, what are you drinking tonight, Patient Zero? You drinking anything? Ice Mountain? Sparkling? Is that sparkling Ice Mountain water? Oh. I thought you were going to say it was like sparkling beer or something. Ice Mountain sparkling beer. That'd be interesting. Um, what's going on with you tonight, Greg? You drinking anything or?
Nah, I'm still not drinking. Yep. I don't
I'm
know.
just drinking Scotch alone.
I overate if that counts for anything. I went out with my wife and we went did the endless pasta at the old.
There you go.
That's all I needed to do today to make myself feel good. Well, other than everything else that I won't talk about too much on air.
Word.
Nah, drinking coffee. Gotta love it.
Yeah, I had a few cups of coffee earlier to kind of wake up, and I had to take a little nap there. But yeah, guys, let's get into some of the news here. I got the Drudge Report up, and I got our trending page up for our Steemit group for all the information war stuff. Um, let's see. So on the front page of Drudge right now, they're talking Mexico, Caravan. Um, Essentially, there's all these illegal immigrants kind of banding together. Um, and what they're doing is they're banding together to try and overwhelm border security. So, like, you can't catch everybody because there's like 3,000 people and there's only like 400 or 500 border security. So they're basically just running past them. And, they might catch like, less than 10% of them or something. So they just keep going. Trump's been calling that out and saying he's going to cut off all the aid to Mexico and Honduras and all the other places. We got some of their front page stories. We got 16 days till the November elections. We have Ohio has the largest job gains in 21 years. Pelosi is cursed out by protesters in Florida. Mob
Oh yeah.
assaults gay journalist at Gillum rally. McConnell confronted at restaurant by angry customers. Uh, Ocasio Cortez compares global warming to Nazism. That's funny.
Of
Um,
course.
oh wow, that's of course, yeah, it's Nazis because so yeah,
Yeah,
when the Earth gets warm, it's the Nazis, right?
they have to do it because if the Nazis don't increase global warming, their moon base won't have enough energy to power its rockets. Obviously, you know.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
Yeah, I
that.
mean, you're not thinking fifth dimensionally. No,
The
it's just such
Nazis
a.
might be in the sixth dimension at this point.
Yeah, Nazis on the moon and they're coming with harpoons. I swear, just watch out. They're everywhere. And again, too, she's a socialist. Like, that's what's insane about it. You know what I mean? She's a socialist saying their Nazis are coming. It's like, yeah, and you are leading the pack. What is wrong with you? Of course they're coming. You brought them here. What are you talking about, lady? you know?
Hmm.
But
It says
what an
it says
absurd
she only
notion.
got one clap. One single clap rings out as she compares global warming to Nazism.
Well, yes, it's probably as popular an idea as the clap itself. I'm
Yeah.
sure everyone's lining up for it. Man, that is ridiculous. That's the thing. Like I think that I'm pushing for libertarians to replace these crazy people. We'll let them have a seat at the kids' table and let them throw mac and cheese at each other while we take care of actual business. And hash out how to run a country. You know, that would be the best thing for everybody.
Yeah, I don't
This
know.
this thing with Mexico, it's not really Mexico's fault. This is more Guatemala. This is more Honduras. And Mexico is being called to task for actually stopping this, because it's not like a couple hundred people making some noise. This is like 10,000 people at this point, something ridiculous numbers of people. And I don't know, you can watch the videos. They're planning on doing what they did to the Mexican border. Again, too, they went to a place with just basic fencing. It's just metal chain link fencing. And they stormed it, yeah. And without opening fire on these people, this is what they're bringing us to. Without actually opening fire or using riot fire. I'm not saying lethal ammunition. I'm talking about them actually kicking the shit out of these people with force. Mexico can't stop them because they've actually done everything politically they can do. They've offered them all asylum. They've done everything that America would do for, someone forcing their way into the country. They've done everything you know what I mean? Like, they have done it. But these people aren't about that. They're making some weird statement. I want to know what the media is like down in Honduras that whipped all these idiots into a frenzy in the first place. Like, where are they getting this idea to do this? It's not just like normal people who have no money or means to live or eat would just march 1,000 miles through the desert. It's not like Exodus. These people aren't Moses going to the promised land. This is weird. Maybe they think they are. I don't know. But they're coming to America, and they're just going to eat shitty Taco Bell and plastic food that they get from food stamps. It's not the same as getting the promised land from Moses, So, yeah, they're forcing a military thing, in my opinion. I don't know how far you... that's what it seems to be. Like, this is where we're at, National Guard, because 10,000 people cannot invade a country and tell them they're going to tell them what's up. We can't do that to Canada. Canada would start firing tear gas at me if I brought 10,000 Americans up there and forced my way over the border, over a fence, wrecked all their stuff as I did it, trashed everything on the way. They'd gas us, wouldn't they?
They would. Yeah, it's a total double standard, and it's something that the left has been doing for a long time. Is to so like if they can't change the laws on immigration, and any party is guilty of this, obviously too. I'm not saying it's just the left, but since they can't change the laws on immigration, they just cut the funding for border patrol, and they cut the funding for like the people who actually deal with like deporting people when they're past their visa and stuff like that. So then they cut funding for lawyers and judges to get speedy trials and get these people out of here if they're not supposed to be here. And it's like it's like, what is it called, like lawfare or something like that, where you have a law that's on the books, and then you figure out a way of just going around it. One of the ways of going around not funding the border and not having a wall is you just don't fund anything, and like the border patrol can't do their job because they might need like 10,000 border patrol for like this the state of Texas, and they only have like 2,000, right? Or maybe they need 20,000. Yeah. So it's like,
and then they can point to the like program saying it doesn't work. It's somebody else's fault that it doesn't work, and you need to do something that they have a solution. Problem solution, reaction solution. I forget the middle part. I think this is what I'm saying. Like, I wonder too if there's some sort of rogue element to our government that's going and whipping them up ourselves, because they are just like the FBI has been shown to be, and the IRS, and just keep naming the alphabet soup. They are like proven to be Democrat operatives in their own right, and like, this is what I'm saying. Like, there's no way of actually stopping this crowd of people without force. They're not reasonable. Like, Mexico has already proven that these people aren't reasonable. They're not looking for a better life. They've been whipped up into like being like zombie idiots marching to make a political scene, because this is going to be visually bad when Trump's administration fires fucking rubber bullets on all these people who are trying to break into the country. But he has to do something if nobody else does. So it's the visuals, and so which deep state actor or something is responsible, because I really doubt that like people in Honduras who might not even have access to the internet. I don't even know how they're living. Like, I've met a lot of people from there, and Guatemala, and most of them don't have electricity. They really, really don't. Like, there's a couple urban areas, but just about everybody living down there is living in third world conditions. It's rich and poor. So they're getting the poorest people somehow, You know what I mean? Maybe they're somebody's broadcasting it over a radio or something. It's on their television, and who's paying for it? Where's this message coming from? And because I don't believe them that they decided they were going to be here, they were going to do this for the sake of freedom or some shit. You know, somebody's putting them up to this, and it's to make Trump look terrible for the midterms, and you know maybe even beyond for 2020. They're going to use the footage of us defending the border as a nation. Like Democrats and Republicans are going to be on the line, working that line, defending it from people invading. You know, some these border patrol agents aren't like Trump robots. Some of them are Democrats, and they're going to be firing tear gas alongside with Republicans and independents because it's their job. But it's going to look like you know the Republicans are these heartless monsters who want to wage war on the third world immigrants. Is what you know they're going to paint it up as. It's going to be a horrible visual. I mean, I don't know how else we're going to get around it.
Yeah, it's for the I say for the political class. It's all about like having scenery, that imagery, you know, showing like a bunch of poor people trying to get into a country, and then it's like cuts to, you know, police shooting rubber bullets or throwing tear gas into the crowd, and how dare the police and the border patrol keep all these people out of here. And I don't know,
I
it
got a few
it
people
get
they need to meet too, because like you know, let's go back to the people who like you. I'll introduce you to somebody who had escaped East Germany. And Checkpoint Charlie wasn't no fucking chain link fence. You know what I mean? This certainly was not. It was a stone wall, 10 feet high at least, with guys with machine guns pacing on top, dogs, barbed wire. You know, real deal. Like this is like a real border. We don't have that. These people are making out like we are monsters and Nazis or something for saying that 10,000 poor people can't show up and tell us what to do. You know, no, 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 we're not. Every country on the planet does that because it's the only sane thing to do. You know, and yeah, and I don't know. Like this is what I'm saying. Like we could have, we could do the Checkpoint Charlie thing. We're perfectly capable of it. We've done worse things as a country, guys. I'm sure of that, and it's not the worst embarrassment we'll ever face. So we could do exactly that. Stone walls, barbed wire, German shepherds, machine guns. You know, men in dark suits pacing on top. Anybody who crosses this line gets shot. That's a real border, and this is really what we're capable of. So, is that what they want? I'm really worried that's what they want.
yeah, I mean they just want control. And like I think like a lot of these reasons like this stuff kind of stuff is still going on is that like the narrative, just the control they have and how they're able to like have all these big platforms that just continuously keep this narrative going. Like, oh, like I was just reading something just real quick, not to get too off topic to a different subject, but you know
Oh, you
that
might as well too.
Khashoggi, you know that Khashoggi guy that everybody was talking about in the news and how he was killed at some consulate. So like he literally supported Osama bin Laden, and he supported ISIS. He was a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. He was an anti-Semite, anti-Israel, and the Democrats are like talking about how great he was and saying that he's like a slain journalist, but he really was like a terrorist. And I've seen some reports that say that this Khashoggi guy literally fought in some battles like as a terrorist.
Well, I need to know more
So,
about that myself because I am very uncomfortable with the whole thing. Him being murdered, the cover up, Trump being complacent. Maybe he had a good reason to be complacent, but he didn't seem to be upfront with me about it. When I checked to see his statements, he was like aloof. You know, what is this guy? Like, if you got dirt on him, is there? Because to me, it's like, yeah, he's a That's exactly what I heard. That narrative. He's a dissident journalist that the Saudis just brutalized for no reason because he said something
yep,
against the royal family. That's exactly the narrative I heard.
they're doing it to go after Trump because what the most likely thing that happened is that um, this Khashoggi guy was probably shooting his mouth off to the wrong people, and it was probably some people who were anti-Muslim Brotherhood, and he was shooting his mouth off to something, and they just were like, you know, "F you," and then just killed him. So, do I think it was like some big orchestrated thing, and somehow Trump told? Because the way the media is saying it is like they're literally saying that like maybe Trump had something to do with having this guy killed because he doesn't like the Washington Post, and this guy was
Oh,
some kind
that's a
of
little,
something for the
yeah.
Washington Post. Dude, they were all over the news saying that. They're fucking insane.
That's a
It
little
makes
too
me so
much. I
mad.
didn't. Yeah, I heard that. I think in passing, because uh, I can't watch too much CNN because it's probably turn into an NPC. They have like like who knows how they get. I don't know how they get repeat viewers. Really, I don't know what they're doing to get that going. But sounds like bullshit. But yeah, I mean, if he was, from what I heard, he was just at the consulate to uh, get paperwork signed that his old marriage was kaput, and he was making sure he could get married to his wife, and it was this really sort of heart wrenching thing. Like he was just trying to hide from them. So if he was there, like giving people the finger and starting fistfights, and they beat him to death, that's unfortunate. But that does change things a little bit because it seems like he was just, like on the run and was forced to go there. And you know what I mean? That's where it really seems to be, from what I was reading on it. I still think, though, like, I don't like what Trump, I don't like the Saudis. I don't trust them. And Trump's relationship with them is just something I'm not too fond of because I don't know. There's stuff I don't know. That's what it is. It's the fear of the unknown, I suppose. It feels like there's stuff being hidden from us.
Well, the if you think about the power dynamics, so Trump is really pro Israel because Israel in that region, and Israel will basically do anything we want them to do, right? So that kind of keeps like U.S. interest in there. And then if you think about it in the same way, it's all just a power play. Like there's no morality. But like I'd say there's pretty much no morality in almost anything that's being done on that level. It's all just strictly about power and keeping people in check and having a one up, So like having, you know, having South Korea as our ally for until the end of time keeps North Korea and China in check because then they got to worry about something going on there. And then having Japan as an ally keeps China in check. And you know what I mean? Like we just constantly have these allies that do really bad shit. And we just, like Libya and all this stuff. And for the longest time, Saddam Hussein was our
Yeah.
ally. And then he just started invading everything and taking shit over. And then we had to go in and fucking obliterate his ass, in like
Well,
the first Gulf War, and then we went back in again and had to like totally take him out because he was like not doing what we wanted him to do. So I think it's more of just the same. I think
yeah.
I don't think
Well,
there's any morality to it.
there was a false morality narrative to the first Gulf War. I think a lot of like he wasn't actually trying to conquer anything at the time. Oddly enough, what happened was when I think it was like a U.S. backed revolution. It usually is. That's typically how it works. But don't quote me that we put him on there like we did with Castro and a few other people that
Mm-hmm.
turned their back on us. But I'm pretty
Exactly.
sure we
Pay pigs.
yeah, it was not good. When he got in there, like there was a power vacuum, and they had a state system. Like certain states had autonomy in almost a federal system. Obviously, it wasn't like ours. It was old and weird, and but Kuwait, for instance, broke away from Iraq. It would have been like one of our states seceding from the Union and trying to be autonomous, and they only succeeded at this because we immediately signed a defense contract with Kuwait saying that if they were invaded by any power, including Iraq, we would back them up militarily. So that was the only reason a state with no army could face the country, secede from the country. Most people don't know it was a civil war. They don't even know that we interceded into a civil war. Like it was the 13th state of Iraq that seceded from Iraq, and they wanted it back. They weren't like conquering a new country. They were reclaiming their own territory, and we stepped in and tested out all our new tanks. It was like, well, that's weird. So that's what we did there, and this is what again. It's probably a good segue too because we were talking about what Nate Power wrote. Um, it has a lot more to do with the petrodollar, and we have Venezuela doing exactly what Muammar Gaddafi did and Saddam Hussein did, and apparently he doesn't think we're going to blow him up, and that's bad news for people in Venezuela, I'm sure. But yeah, well, hold on a second. Actually, I'm reading an article. Hey there, Truth Force. Oh yeah, all right, yeah. I probably should pay attention to that chat too. So anyway, yeah, I'll put it in there. And this is really not a good idea for Venezuela. They think they're going to get away with going off of the petrodollar, and that basically means like this. I try to tell people we since World War One, we started gaining economic power because when everyone else used all their resources to start fighting each other, and they needed to get more commodities to produce, like France and all our allies, England, they started shipping us their gold, and that's how we filled up our Fort Knox. We would give them raw materials from just because we're America. We have tons of space, tons of commodities, to make steel and everything else. Especially back then, we had a lot of oil, and we used to, that's where they got it from. We give them plastics, we give them nylon and stuff like that. We had all these natural resources to do that with. So they didn't have anything to pay us with because we weren't taking their currency. Fiat doesn't work well when you're losing a war. So they gave us a lot of their gold. Now, we were on the gold currency for a while because of this, but inevitably they were able to buy back their gold and restock their, and sort of things started evening out. So what we did is we started using oil as a commodity instead of gold. That's what the petrodollar really means. It's not the gold-backed dollar or the silver-backed dollar. It's the oil-backed dollar. And we became what I can like the modern comparison is block trades. If you want to buy oil, you have to buy it with American dollars. So if you only have Chinese yuans, you have to then go to a United States currency broker or a treasury broker, trade your yuans for American dollars, pay the middleman cost. So just like we're doing right now, if you want to, put your ether in your ether wallet and you have Steam and it's all you have is Steam, you have to go to block trades, and you have to pay them whatever their fee is to take your Steam and turn it into ether. Then you can ship it over to your wallet and sell it for, cash. So that's how we make our money on the global scene for the most part. It's less to do with selling soybeans and microchips. That is obviously a big part of it. But we make no money off of doing nothing, and this isn't like our invention either. The Chinese actually pulled this on us way earlier. The Cantonese region and a few other places around there, and they would not let us trade with them. You had to go to a certain island, and you had to take all of your stuff, and you'd have to sell it with silver, and they wouldn't use gold, and they had all these other rigged systems, and they're still trying to maintain that all over the world. But bottom line is, Muammar Gaddafi was trying to do the African dollar. He wanted to do an African union and federalize the continent similar to North America and the United States. And he was going to have his own dollar that had nothing to do with it. And basically, you could trade your rubles for his, and he was going to offer a better exchange rate than America, because that's what it boils down to. If you've seen it yourself, how much does it take to put your Steam into Bitcoin compared to Litecoin? Litecoin has a much cheaper exchange rate. So this is what Venezuela is attempting to do to the United States, and doesn't end well for them at all. It never has, and it probably won't for a long time, as long as we have all the guns, guys. Because here's how it works. Like on block trades, Bitcoin can't actually launch nukes at Litecoin for competing, but the United States can. That's a problem for people who want to compete. We have the guns, we have the space force at this point. It's absolutely getting out of hand. So we don't have to compete fairly, and so, okay, we have Colombia as a NATO ally, which is pretty absurd because that has nothing to do with what the heck that was in place for in the first place. But, neither here nor there. Anybody who wants to be in the club who's coming in, I suppose. It might even just be a farce, but it's an excuse for us to have a military base right next to Venezuela in a strategic place in South America, oddly enough. So we have them in the club. So it hasn't ended well. Like Gaddafi, he he's an example too. Like people like Kim Jong Il used to use. Like we're not going to disarm our nuclear program because he did it. You said that you wouldn't attack him, but then you had your CIA and Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State go into his country and start a civil war, and he was literally dragged out of his house and murdered brutally in a grisly manner in the street on tape. So that's a problem if you want to trust America to keep our word and disarm and play ball with us. That's a large issue, to say the least. And again, with Saddam Hussein, too, he was offering us like really good deals, too, like 10 cents on the dollar for oil. But we weren't actually looking for the oil itself. A lot of people think we invade these countries to take their actual commodities. It's not the case. We have all the oil we want. We can just drill as much as we need. We have Alaska. We have the Midwest. We got as much shale to make natural gas. We're good. We're fine. I mean, for the love of God, we'll be the first people taking asteroids out of space and starting to use that as raw resources. I'm not even sure we're that far off from being able to. That's the kind of shit we're up to lately. So that's not the problem. We're over there not to get the resources. We're going to protect our actual business, which is being block trades. We're muscling out people who want in on that business, not the actual commodities themselves. Americans, we're not having a gas shortage. No one freaks out. It's not like going to be Mad Max if gas goes up again to $4 a gallon. That happened under Obama, and nobody had a fit. I mean, we weren't happy. I certainly didn't travel as much. But we didn't have to, society didn't break down into the Thunderdome, is what I'm getting at. So it is what it is. But I fear for Venezuela too because I think like 1 million people died when we took Saddam Hussein out. Oh, there you are, bud.
I'm back. Yep.
Yeah, I was just getting into what Nate Power put up about like I'm fearing for Venezuela. I was trying to tell people how our economy works and why we invade countries who threaten the petrodollar. And yeah, it's not good news for people in that country at all. What's going on with Maduro? He's making a very bold move.
Yeah, the constant warfare that the United States does is like honestly, like we're so immoral in a lot of these things we do, and if we're gonna go to war with Venezuela or start some kind of civil war or something and amplify what's going on, like we're not, you know, like a lot of people see us as like a force for good when you know obviously we can be, but when it's all about power and authority, you know, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I think it's safe to say that we're like the absolute power on the world stage,
Yeah,
especially
militarily.
in our own, especially in this region. And Venezuela has definitely fallen into like, our like regional influence. So I'd say, it sucks, but I don't know if we can really do anything about it at this point. You know, just besides making people aware, telling them what we do, telling them how the Federal Reserve prints all this fake money and causes us to have to go to war with everybody. And,
We got to
if they
protect the
go off,
corporation is really what it boils down to. This is a
yeah,
business thing. This is a
we're
business
protecting
transaction.
fake money. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
protecting all this fake money we print, and we got to go to keep everybody on this fake money. Like if you could imagine in a world like a pretty good example is if imagine if all the Bitcoin miners started like having like started a civil war in your country because you stopped using Bitcoin. Like that's really what it is.
it's yeah,
That's
exactly. And this could be the future, man. It could be that like Litecoin or even block trades, they have a competitor called like Trade Blocks, and Trade Blocks now is headhunting Ethereum. So block trades can't do Ethereum anymore, and eventually block trades gets pissed and starts launching bombs. Man, this is like the equivalent of that, except these people say they have some sort of divine authority or some the will of the people, which is all crap. Because they're gonna do what they're gonna do whether or not we show up to vote. And if we don't show up to fight, they're gonna come and get us and make us fight. So it's like kind of horseshit that it operates in a natural or divine way.
well, and then the flip side of it is that the more unrest that we have in the South American countries, the more illegal immigrants are going to try to come up here. And you know what? It's like I don't blame somebody for trying to take advantage of an incentive. I mean, the incentive is that if you get across the border, you're going to get you know like free money for the rest of your life, and promise of maybe becoming a citizen, or like getting like once you're a citizen you can get a good job, you know what I mean, like opportunity and stuff like that. And it's like all these people who just are coming up this way because of their country is in shambles. It's like if we put Venezuela in shambles, it's just going to make even more of it, and it's going to destabilize all the countries around Venezuela, and it
Brazil's
just
not
makes
having any of it.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But you think
if
you
we're
think that what we're gonna do to the people that are doing this stupid 10,000 man march up the? Watch what happens in Brazil if people from Venezuela or Hondurans try to march into their country. They're going to open with live machine gun fire. It's not going to be rubber bullets. They're going to kill these people. It's going to be an actual. It's going to be an actual massacre. It's bad news.
Yeah, I mean, it all eventually starts some kind of a war, and wars are fought for stuff like this. And if we can't secure our own border, and if we don't stop making civil wars happen in other people's countries, I wouldn't be surprised if some other country tries to start some kind of a war with us or attacks us, because frankly, we're just for the most part, what we do with our military is we just bully everybody. So
That's what it is. I mean, at this, because well, I saw it too. I was doing research into like South America and these conflicts, and it goes back to like this is what I was saying too about like rogue people in our government. I don't even want to use the deep state to call these. This has been around since before that term was even thought up. It's just people who have the ability to act independently without permission. Like they have the authority, and people trust them to be telling the truth, and they're not. They're saying they have approval from Congress, and they don't, or they have funding to do a certain thing like Project A, and they use it for their pet project that they keep secret. And like I truly don't, I don't believe any of this stuff is grassroots or natural. And when it comes to like, here's another thing too. We talk about a lot of the poor. We kind of picture these people poor and shoeless, looking for a hand up or the bottom of the barrel. But on the other hand, like we have like people who are just like the smartest people in society, the most capable people in society that don't want to live in a war zone and are getting the hell out of there. And I only bring this up because it sucks for the countries really bad. Like so, all the doctors left, all the people who all the scholars left, all the computer programmers gone. They're done. You know what I mean? So what does it leave? What kind of country does it leave when all of the you know what I'm saying? Like all the people with the IQ 120 are gone. They're just gone. Even the you know what I'm saying? Because they saw the which way the wind was blowing and took off. So what happens to a country when all of the hardest working, most capable, intelligent people leave all at once because they don't want to live on fire, or they don't want to eat a dog or something? And you know what I'm saying? Like they know better and they're gone. Like what happens to the country after that? And that's what we always hear from the left around here. We're just getting the best and the brightest. These people are all wonderful people. It's like, so all the good, wonderful people left, and now it's just a cartel and their victims. Like, what do you guys even? What's the end game? What do you think we're gonna have to do after all the smartest people are gone? And you know what I mean? Like Honduras is left with nothing but gangsters and people with like no clue how to feed themselves. This is really a bad idea. So I'm not saying it could be more humanitarian to say maybe the doctor should stay in Venezuela for a while. We got plenty here. We're okay. I'm not saying we don't need more. I'm just saying that you'd need them as well. So it's a little scary for a lot of reasons.
yeah, there's a good video on that. I'm gonna pull up and put in the chat. It's the one about the guy explaining immigration using gumballs. Have you ever seen that one?
I do not believe so.
Oh, it's pretty good. He proves how like it's literally impossible for us to end world poverty by bringing in all of these immigrants, because they literally essentially the way it works is more people are born in the third world per year than we could take in by like a factor of like 100. So if we took in like 1 million people every year, 100 million every year, so it's literally impossible.
Well, part of me thinks that I do go into like this. This might be into like sort of conspiratorial territory, but I honestly believe that these people don't want Honduras to become like New York or a place that's first world status, that's cutting edge, because to them they believe that they're preventing Armageddon by making sure nobody drives a car. You know what I'm saying? They think they're saving the world by making sure nobody eats beef or has a healthy diet. They want them to eat weird shit like Soylent Green or something. And they're these diehard people that think that Armageddon's coming. They've watched too many Al Gore videos, and they think they're virtuous by oppressing these countries and making them burn camel shit for warmth rather than allowing them to hook up a coal plant. Because coal's bad. You know what I'm saying? They don't even allow them to use their resources. So there's like actual countries, like our country, we can't build coal plants in Africa, for instance, because of our regulations here. So we'd have to do some weird shit to get it done. It's off. It's odd. And it's like I can't, other than pointing to like Agenda 21 and a few other UN things that are like something you can point at, it would take a while to actually go beyond saying this is more of a feeling I have rather than truth. But they, what the hell's wrong with these countries that can't put up a coal power plant and get everybody wired up? Like that's bullshit. These people have copper, they got coal, they got fucking matches. They can make this happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna say a lot of the stuff that got us to where we are is this technology, the coal and the fossil fuels, and then we're trying to impose our will on all of these other countries and say, oh, you can't use fossil fuel, you can't use coal, but they literally need to do that in order for them to grow. And then by saying you can't do that and not allowing them to, they can't grow to be as big as we are. Like you said, we don't want another New York City happening in some other country. We want, we don't want a Los Angeles or I guess what is it called, Silicon Valley. I mean, like we don't want like another Silicon Valley happening somewhere else. So we're like doing all that we can. The government's doing all that they can to keep like all these other countries in check so they don't become these powerful nations. And we don't want anybody else having nuclear weapons. We don't want anybody else having stuff going on in space. If you want to go to space, you got to go through us and Russia and China or whatever, right? And it's like we create these like we're gatekeepers on a lot of these things, right? So
Yeah.
and we the other thing we do is like I said, is we force them to stay on like this fake money. I mean, imagine like if you came up with a cryptocurrency tomorrow and you had the United States Army behind your back, and you can just print as much as you want whenever you want, and then you go to some other countries and you say, hey, you got to use this to trade for oil, and they're like, why? It doesn't make any sense. We have our own money. And they're like, no, you got to use this or else we're gonna just make a civil war. And they're
Yeah.
like, well, why can't we use our own money? And like, no, you got to use yours. Like
There's not a whole
it's
lot of logical reasons why a person who lives in the Ukraine can't buy oil from a person who lives in Libya without doing it in the United States currency. That is weird, and that is really the deal. That is like that is by gunpoint the deal.
yeah. The more you think about it and the more like you read up on all this stuff, it's like it just kind of is depressing because like we're really not like this land of like this freedom, and we're not like these moral arbiters of truth who want to give people democracy and all this stuff and make things better. Like we truly do like a lot of bad stuff, but then since most people don't really look into it, they don't know. Like, and nobody really knows what happens in Libya for the most part. If you asked anybody about Libya and why they had a civil war, they'd be like, I don't know, because they didn't like each other. Not because the U.S. backed it all.
Gaddafi was a weird dude too, and I mean he was involved in the Lockerbie bombing, and I don't want to be on here thinking people don't think I'm defending Saddam Hussein or the Lockerbie bomber because
Right.
I'm trying to cut the narrative and the misinformation. They are like the dude blew up a passenger plane over Scotland, Lockerbie, Scotland. It was It was a UK. I don't know how, but yes, lots of innocent people died, and like these were he blew it up over like the countryside. Like people's farms were ruined because they're strewn by plane parts. It was awful. This was way before 9/11. This is like why we used to have like movies like Die Hard and stuff like that. These people were real, and you know, I'm not defending him, but he supposedly tried to do as much reparations as he could, and I don't think you can fix that. You don't just go around blowing things up. He's a fucking terrorist. That's what I'm getting at. He was an asshole, and Saddam Hussein and his children, I honestly believe, were monsters. Taking out Saddam Hussein himself, people can argue about the man and his motives. Like I said, him trying to reclaim Kuwait, in my opinion, is exactly what our country would have done. If California secedes tomorrow, if California secedes tomorrow and has China as a military backer for their civil war or their secession, that's fucked up. Like who doesn't have a problem in America? I mean, part of me says good riddance. Sorry, but it's like no, I'm not. I'm just kidding. But like Maxine Waters could probably go, and she can take Nancy Pelosi to China with her. But you know what I'm saying? Like those motives I understand, but then like if his children had gotten a chance to take over, being the monsters that they were, God only knows what would have happened to the earth. Like I don't want to be like, hey, we prevented the next Hitler. I'm not trying to be one. That used to bother me when conservatives used to say that. Well, we didn't have mass destruction weapons, but he was the next Hitler. So we had. It's like, what did you have a fucking crystal ball to tell you that? How do you know what he was going to do next? But I do feel like nothing good was going to happen next. I don't know what would have happened, but it wouldn't have been positive for me or anybody around the guy. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it's yeah, like you said, we're not defending Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi or
No,
how he did the Lockerbie bombing or anything like that. So that's a good thing to always mention. We're not
that's
defending them.
I'm defending truth, and history, not the dudes, those guys. And I think too. I don't wish upon any human. I don't really know like the way. Maybe if it was my son on that fucking airplane, I would have said Gaddafi got what he deserved. But as a person who isn't too involved emotionally, I just think the whole thing was a mess. Wish none of it happened. Honestly, it's the best I can do.
Yeah,
He was a weird dude too. You know what his thing was too. This is a little bit of a gossipy thing to bring up, but he used to take a yacht across the Mediterranean to places like Italy and Greece, and he used to pick up models and traipse them around and live the millionaire playboy lifestyle. He'd be wearing he wasn't in traditional Muslim garb. He would wear the traditional African garb, with the designs and stuff, the prints and colors. I think of Coming to America, but I'm an asshole for even. But he would then he would convert he would hang out with these women long enough. He probably obviously had charisma to some degree. He was a world leader, so you kind of need a little bit of personality. And he would convert these A-list models to Islam, and he wouldn't make them wear. He would make like I said, he wouldn't make them wear traditional Muslim thing. He was like the new African version of it. And he was like a revolutionary. He was almost bringing what do you call it? The Reformation to the Islam religion. And so he was pissing everybody off in the wrong way, is what I'm getting at with that. I don't think they wanted that. I don't think the people in Saudi Arabia wanted a reformation. I don't think any of these people who have the power in a modern age over a religion like that would ever give up an inch of it. Not 1 ounce of power do they ever willingly give up.
Yeah, it's it seems like all these people don't want these reformations and these uprisings. Look at what happened to Iran. I gotta look into that more because I honestly don't know how much of a role we played in the Iran thing. Because originally Iran had a culture that was very Western. If you actually go back and look at Osama bin Laden too, and the bin Laden family, they were all very Western, and they actually went to um, do they go to Harvard and Yale and Ivy League schools or something like that? And essentially they were
Yeah.
really rich, and like they all went to these big Western schools in all these different countries, like in France and in England and stuff like that, in the United States. And when you look at them wearing stuff, they look like hippies from like the 70s and the 80s. Like they don't look
Yeah, they
like
fit in.
somebody. Yeah, they don't look like they're living in a fucking cave for like the last 5 years and that they haven't showered. Like they don't. They
Yeah.
look exactly like we did in the 70s and 80s. And the same thing kind of was happening in Iran. And then the religious um, aspect of it somehow took control again, and then
I
everybody.
I know a little. Yeah, I know. Well, the dates I'm always a little fuzzy on the dates, but from what I can tell is when it was World War I. The Germans and people like that showed up, and they started to Europeanize them. They kind of started meshing with that culture, So they were wearing suits and what you'd see in Northern Europe, and that was the first step towards it. But they were very religious still. Everybody still wore traditional garb from like 1,000 years ago. Style hadn't changed much, and the power structure did. But the people started mixing together. You know what I mean? They started hanging out and doing trade. So that was their first experience. So, but over like by World War II, they signed again up with the Axis again. For what it's worth. And they bought into the whole like Aryan. All right, so Persia is what I'm originally talking about. Persia signed up in World War I, but by World War II, they had lost and had been restructured by Western powers, like UK and the Allies restructured them after World War I, and they didn't like it. They gave us the big finger right then, and they joined again with the Germans, and this is where they renamed themselves from Persia to Aryan. And this is something that a lot of people don't know. The Aryan nation. They actually don't call it Iran. We call it Iran. They call it Aryan. They are what the history supposedly is what Hitler went down and told them is that they were the first people that moved up to the north. That's why they had such a close culture. And after about a generation or so of cultural mixing, I guess that kind of bullshit propaganda flies. You know what I mean? They had like weird blood tests and stupid eugenics things to back up like phony science and crap. So they literally convinced them that they were like basically the same bloodline or whatever. And so it was really bad news, But at the same time, when they decided that they needed to evolve because this is when evolutionary theory started hitting the Earth. So this is really weird, gross story. I'm sorry, but this is Iran. It really is. They did name themselves the Aryan Nation because of the Third Reich convincing them that they were the ancestors to the Third. It's fucking sick. And they haven't changed their name back to Persia. I don't know if you hadn't noticed. But so again,
Exactly.
after World War II, they lost again. We beat them again, and we restructured their country again. So we put in Western leaders this time, and we took all the German influences out and started bringing English people down and making them drink tea, and hanging out and westernized them as much as we could. But the old powers that be weren't gone. So what they did is they brought back basically the theocracy aspects of Persia. They didn't change a lot of the weird connections they had with Europe because it was so culturally tied. They didn't change the name from the Aryan nation either, which I'm going to say 1,000 times. But they went back to Persian-style theocracy because that's what they said. The entire mess for these last few generations, getting us wrapped up in all this new world monstrosity, is the great Satan of the West. So all we have to do is get rid of that. So get rid of all the European influence, get rid of all the American influence. We go back to living like Persians again, and we'll conquer the world because we used to do that 1,000 years ago. And that's pretty much what happened. So yeah, when the Shah took over, so again too, we could say Russia is involved because we backed the first revolutionary war that was even blah, blah, blah. Like they've been fighting back and forth for a couple generations. But bottom line is now they are pro Russia, pro Persia, and they still have all those wacky beliefs about their heritage and culture. So it's just weird. I'm glad I don't live there. I'll tell you that. I think if you meet a lot of people from Iran and America, though, they will call themselves Persians. They know what that word means, and they do not want to associate themselves with that group of people. I don't even know if the Aryan nation in America wants to associate themselves with Iranians, but stupid assholes don't know they're doing it. You know, it is what it is.
Well, another good point to bring up is a lot of people don't know their history on what we're talking about. So, like in World War II, Hitler was closely allied with many of the Middle Eastern and Muslim nations that we see and talk about all the time. So, like when people are, you see like a lot of people on the left who are sympathetic towards Muslims for some reason, but then they chant, "Oh, no, no Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA," right? But they
Yeah.
they don't understand when they're saying we welcome all immigrants that literally almost every single Muslim nation in Africa and in the Middle East literally was on Hitler's side in World War II, contributed to killing as many Jews as possible. They literally wanted to take over the world with Hitler. They were on his side. Like, it was called the Africa Corps, and the Nazis. People don't really remember there was huge battles in Africa where the British colonies were fighting back
Yeah.
against the invading Hitler force.
Check out
In
Lawrence of Arabia one
Italy.
day.
Yeah, yeah, seriously.
It's cool.
And 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 what's the one with the one with Harrison Ford? What's the movie like Raiders of the Lost Ark and stuff, right?
The first one is when, Raiders of the Lost Ark is when he went to the Middle East to find the Ark of the Covenant. Yeah. That,
Yep, and there's all those Nazis
that
just
was
randomly there for
fantastic.
no reason. Yeah, and all these Nazis are there. People might not have put two to two together, but yeah, there's a reason for that because it really happened. Not the movie, but what I'm saying.
No, yeah,
Indiana
they were
Jones.
in there digging. Was it was it Himmler? No, I can't remember. I was fascinated by that because because Christianity, when I was looking into to becoming a Christian, I didn't just go into it because I felt like it or I found Jesus in a parking lot or something like that. It was like a decision to be made. I felt like I wanted to do it, and just the lore, the mythology, and like all the weird stuff. Like people in the movies think like, yeah, he wanted the Ark of the Covenant so he could blow people up or something, like he could use it as a weapon. But in a sense, what they were saying is, if you are the empire or the culture that owns the Ark of the Covenant and the cross and the spear that Jesus died on and with, if you own all these religious objects, you own the power of that part of humanity. So like your empire is more glorious because you have these items. You know what I'm saying? Like people come to see, they come from all over the world to where you are because you have the collection of all the world's greatest things in one place. So you're the epicenter of all things when you have the power of these objects. I don't know if that concept makes any sense to anybody listening, but again, I'm not saying I believe this. I'm saying this is what the idea behind it was. Like they didn't think the spear was going to grant them immortality or the blood of Christ would make them like live forever. But they did think that if you have these items, people will flock to see them and your economy is going to improve and your reputation around the world is going to be remembered forever. You know what I'm saying? Like you're the coolest culture ever. That's really what it
Right.
means.
That's why the Germans stole a lot of the art all the time, and when they would raid the other countries, they would always ship back all the most expensive paintings and
Yep.
all the artwork and sculptures and just trinkets and relics and everything they could get their hands on. As they just shipped it all back, and they had like huge, you know, museums that they would make and display like their war trophies, and it was like it was like a status symbol, like, oh, look at all this stuff we stole, and
Yeah,
they would take it
creepy,
from
right?
like, yeah, they would take it
The
from like
mind
their
of a
own citizens
socialist.
too.
Mind of a
Yeah.
socialist. See, this is what I want to tell people too about. Like, they call Night of Broken Glass is when they did a surprise invasion of Poland. After they promised not to 1,000 times to everybody under the sun. They call it Crystal Knock. It's the Night of Broken Glass. It's just you know, it's the shattered night. There's a lot of different words for it, but it's just this is what left wing politics looks like in action, guys. Like when these people like Antifa gets the go ahead from the government, this is what they do. They go house to house smashing everything. And this is what real wealth redistribution is like. So imagine if Occupy Wall Street got the go ahead to raid the banks and they were allowed to go in and cause as much havoc and take whatever they want. This is literally what happened when socialists took power in Germany. This is what they did. You know, they redistributed the wealth all right, and they did it by force, just like they promised to around here. You know, and it's fucking scary. You don't have to like imagine what it looks like. You can check it out. You know, a lot of people in Poland know exactly what I'm talking about right now. They, you know what I mean? Because they probably either have fought and lost or are still fighting to get some of their heirlooms back, some of their cultural heritage that does not belong to anybody but them. You know, like that should be in their museum so people, you know, tourists go to their museum and go to their country. You know what I'm saying? That part of their economy was literally redistributed to other parts of Europe, mostly centralized in the ones who stole it. Oddly enough, that's how socialism often functions. Is they redistribute everything really well, but it just so happens that they live near the epicenter of where it gets redistributed from, so they get the best stuff first. More often too.
Exactly. Exactly. It's shows the power like of how a centralized army and something that's controlled by a few people can really get things going. And it's something that we gotta work on reducing in our own, government. Is we gotta get the word out, talk about these types of things. We don't want to become some dominant power one day who's doing the same shit Germany does. I mean, Germany did. And I mean, we very well could. I mean, who's going to stop us for the most part? I mean, our army is so big, we would win any conventional war. The only way to truly beat us would be if they just started nuking our army. And whoever nukes us, they're going to get nuked back immediately. So they know that they can't do that. So I kind of am of like I'm kind of the mind that we're so powerful and we're so big and we're so spread out all over the place that like nobody can really touch us, and we're kind of happy with that for now. But when we start to see our own economy do bad, that was the catalyst for World War II. Was that all of the sanctions and the fines that all the other countries put on them from losing World War One, and they made Germany repay everything. And
Yeah.
for a long time, people were paying the money back, and then everybody started going broke, and they didn't have any money, and then then like the common everyday man started to get pissed off, and they're like, why are we still paying for this year after year after year? And then that's why Hitler became popular, and that's why people look to him for what he was saying, because he was saying we're not going to pay these motherfuckers anymore, and you know
Yeah, Germany first. That's what
yeah,
nationalism sounds like. Sometimes, sometimes though, again, I don't want to compare any. Nationalism isn't evil on its own. It isn't.
right,
The way you go about fixing your nation's problems is the difference.
right. And there's a big distinction too between us and 1930s Germany. Is we're not in a Great Depression right now.
No.
I mean, we were in a Great Depression before, and we got out of it, and we didn't you know like we didn't have to like overthrow our government or start invading Mexico or Canada to do it. So
Right.
it's um it's definitely something that you can get out of. Um, the problem is when government gets too involved in everything, making everything a bubble. Like you have like the student loan bubble. You have, I think it's like almost $2 trillion for student loans right now that like basically can't be paid. Um, there's the trillions of dollars we owe to China. There's the trillions of dollars that we just owe in general. Um, I've looked it up before where it said like the average taxpayer essentially owes like $1 million. Like every single taxpayer owes about $1 million, and then that would pay off our entire debt. So it's literally unsustainable. Um, and the
Yeah, they're
reason
not
that we
getting that from me.
continuously, huh?
They're not getting a million from me unless they want to
Yeah,
take it
I
in
mean,
tomatoes, which they might have to do.
yeah, we might all have to become indentured servants, just farm tomatoes. or something. But yeah, it's just I just wish more people knew, and that's why we're doing what we're doing is putting this information out there in the podcast. And we appreciate every one of you guys who shares our links and tells your friends about us and have them sign up to Steam it, the decentralized social media platform that's connected to a blockchain, because we really got to decentralize a lot of stuff. A lot of these problems wouldn't exist if we had to compete in a free market. Like a lot of the stuff we have isn't a free market. Like we literally have social healthcare, like socialist healthcare in like many regards. Like a lot of the stuff that we have problems with, it isn't because of capitalism. It's because of some central authority controlling it all. That's the problem: is centralization and bad policies. You know, it's like the same thing that happens at a company. If you have a company that's run by some guy who's out of touch and doesn't keep up with what's going on, like let's just say it's like a newspaper, right? So you have some guy who runs a huge newspaper company. He has a million newspapers he sells every week, and it's in a big city. And then the internet comes out, and slowly he starts to lose how many newspapers he's selling. He never does anything. He never tries to get a website and post stuff online. They never try to do radio. They never try to do podcasting. So it's like, you know what? When you go out of business, guess what? It's because you're not paying attention to what the market's telling you. And that's exactly what our government does in a lot of situations is they don't pay attention to what the market's saying. It's obvious to all of us cryptocurrency is going to be used for a lot of different things. It's obvious to all of us because we pay attention. It's the people who don't pay attention who are the leaders that are the problem. So luckily we have a chance to get good leaders in there in the United States. We can vote people in who seem to know what they're doing. It's a double-edged sword though, because humans are easily big ego and talks great. Like Bernie Sanders saying he's going to give everybody $15 an hour jobs.
Yeah.
How are you going to do that? Like you print more money and it's print some more money. Let's do it.
That's literally what,
Woo!
like, I've making fun of like Sanders and Ocasio. There's another like governor of Florida who's just like him too, that needs to, like, Gillibrand or something, or Gillum. But this just nuts. And yeah, they really do think that they can just print it out of nowhere, and there's not going to be any consequences to that. And it's not going to devalue the currency, or they can tax somebody 110% of what they make, and they're still going to show up to work. Like, they don't understand how human beings function. They seem to be on another planet. Like, I don't know how to explain it to them. If somebody is going to have to work 90 hours a week and they lose 98% of their income to fund healthcare that is getting worse and worse every day, they're either going to leave. And this is what I'm saying too. What happens to a country when all the people are all the good, smart, and capable and hardworking people are taxed so much, and they have so much control, and they live in such a socialist hellhole that they're willing to, like, march through a desert to get out of there? Like, what happens to the country? We could be those people if we keep electing socialist weirdos and ultra left wingers. We could have it so like people like me aren't going to take it. I'm always the problem. They all whenever I hear a communist talk, like, I always like, oh, they're talking about me. It's like there are people out there that don't send their kids to public school even though they have a mother and father at home and they're willing to help with the homework, and that's why we don't have as good of a work record as we should. All the people, all the good students that we could be giving A's, they're not showing up. They're being homeschooled, or they're going to charter schools. It's like, well, yeah, I guess you're right. I'm not going to feed my kid to your machine to make your numbers look better, to get you better funding. I'm just not going to do it. I'm always the problem. Like, people would just, if they would just, they'd be okay with food stamps. They could just give more of their, they could pay more in property taxes, and we'll give them more in EBT. It's like, or you could just not take so much in taxes, and I'll never have to stand in a bread line again. I don't want to play those games. So every time they say, like, this is the group that's the problem, like, oh, they're talking about me, because I wouldn't play ball with these psychos for a second,
Well, and the other thing too is I see Patient Zero said that Amazon tried to give him stock options, and there was a lot of blowback.
Who?
Would
Who
you
they?
say that the employees quit trying Patient Zero because you said they quit trying? Are you saying like the employees like quit trying as hard because they were paid $15 an hour and had no stock options? I'm just seeing what he's was just trying to clarify what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, the communist dystopia. Okay, he was talking. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
And
mean,
yeah, Mike Rowe is getting attacked too. Abyssal, thanks for coming by, buddy. I always appreciate seeing you. Mike Rowe was saying, he's not towing the line, the liberal line, so he's out of the club. Like they're like blacklisting him from television, and stuff like that because he's trying to tell people like there's more options and you don't have to send your kid to a place that's good. Like I would hate it if I spent $60,000 a year to send my kid to college and they came back on Thanksgiving speaking like a socialist Democrat or a democratic socialist, whatever they're calling themselves these days, and not knowing, like they seem to know less. You know what I mean? And it seems to be this crowd of people, and it's terribly frightening because it is a communist dystopia to me. And people like Mike Rowe, like telling people there's honor in doing a dirty job and all these other things, they're getting pushed aside, and it's just nuts. I hate seeing that. I want if people worked a day in their life, they wouldn't end up as socialists. Is what I'm saying. I don't think.
well, that's interesting you say that because some stats that like Ben Shapiro and I think like Michael Knowles were talking about one of their shows last week. They're saying how when you are married, you tend to turn more conservative and you tend to turn more like to vote Republican because you want to keep, you know, like your tax money and you don't want to be giving away all your money to all these causes because it's like conservative. At the end of the day, you're the one who's raising your family and you know like you need the money for you. You can't be giving it away all willy nilly for like an extra thousands and thousands of dollars to just some random stuff that just continuously gives away like free Obama phones and free internet and that I don't know if you know about all of this, but if you depending on
Yeah,
what
Obama
state you're
phone
in.
meme. Who has the Obama phone memes? They should. I got my
Have you
Obama
seen?
phone.
Yeah, you've seen
Sorry.
that. You know what? She actually, dude, she converted. She converted over to being Republican once someone told her the truth about it all, and then she did an interview on someone's show. Some big YouTuber had her on and talked with her for a while, and she doesn't like Obama anymore.
Good.
Was it Alex Jones?
Red pillar.
Patience Zero said it was Jones. I thought she was on someone else's too.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
Jones.
Jones did a little more than whining and dining. He's a man on the prowl lately.
Yeah, that could have been why him and his wife had problems because he whined and dined.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a mess. I feel for Jones in that too. That was a mess. I couldn't imagine being the divorce lawyer that had to defend Alex Jones. No, he's a completely balanced and rational person. Oh yeah, just today I have him wearing a lizard mask and talking like he is part of the Illuminati. So other than that, yeah, perfectly well-adjusted person.
It's about time he admitted it. I've known all along. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that
Well, you
was
know what
funny.
though?
It was fucking weird as hell seeing it. Seeing
That's
it.
the thing though. That's like in order to appreciate like that kind of comedy, like you have to have like a really like you have to have like a high amount of intelligence to like understand that like he's joking around. Like dumb
Yeah,
if a dumb person watches that, they're gonna say, "Wow, he really believes that he's a lizard controlling Illuminati."
yeah.
And it's like, no, he fucking doesn't. He likes. Did you guys
It's a
watch that
Gorn
one where?
mask.
Yeah, did you watch the one where he's talking about honey smacks with Owen Benjamin? That one's hilarious.
No, but I do believe Owen Benjamin is fucking hilarious. I'd love to see it though. I think he does. I like him in the third chair at Steven Crowder. I gotta say, I don't. I've been watching
Yeah.
his show more lately. It's basically because of him though. I'm starting to think age out of his target audience, which is a little scary to admit. But still a fun time.
Yeah. Owen Benjamin's a good dude. Crowder and Not Gay Jared are good dudes. They're doing what
Not
they
Gay
can.
Jared's not there anymore. He's
Oh, he's
gone.
not there anymore?
Now
I
they
haven't
got a guy
watched
named
him.
Quarter Black. They got a guy named Quarter Black. I don't know. I'm not. I don't want to explain the name. It's their problem to explain it. But it's they changed it up. Yeah, that dude Jared is just like I am done. Like I'm betting he was working 90 hours a week because I know what it's like just to juggle a couple of shows. On Steam it.
Yeah.
But he's I can't imagine and juggling all the because he has to people in-house studio and he has to do amazing amounts of work that was driving him crazy, and I'm sure he's got like a cushy job producing something way less stressful, and he makes probably a relatively amount of same money. So and nobody has to say not gay every time they address him anymore, so that's probably a plus for him. But yeah, he got to the point where those like people were gonna kill him, like those Antifa members he reported on that were like gonna stab people. Like they never
Yeah.
like stop bothering him, and he's like he's gonna try to have a wife and kids, and he doesn't want people threatening to murder him all the time. So he has to like probably make some commercials for like the Sofa King and the local Jiffy Lube is probably what he's doing, and God bless him for it.
Yeah. I mean, I can totally understand when someone's like, when you have gang stalking going on, it's a completely different situation than, you, like you can't blame somebody for changing what they're doing when they're getting gang stalked all the time, because when you're in flight mode and then someone's threatening your family every day and people are showing up at your house and doing stuff and you can't afford security, and you know I'm sure he can't really afford security. I mean, like rich people definitely can, so they don't have to give a fuck, and they can have a gated community and stuff. I'm sure not gay Jared didn't make that much money to afford
No,
round the
they
clock
don't.
security that
No.
follows him and his wife and his kids or whatever. So, um,
Well, this is the good thing for again too, like God bless him for what he's done for the alternative media in general, because just to show like how much he was working. I think they replaced him with like three people, like honestly. So it's like, oh, all right, yeah, he was pretty much doing the job of about three people. That makes sense, you know, because he was. It would be like me and you too, like getting a show. Like I would be probably that guy. Like after but if I was juggling guests like Owen Benjamin and like Razor Fist, and then I have Ted Cruz coming on. It's like, okay, this is a level of stress that I'm not exactly ready for. You know what I mean? That would be, like, hey, maybe one day, man, if we hang out long enough, dude, that'd be freaking great. Imagine if we had a senator on the Decentralized News one day. That I would love that. That would be amazing. But they pulled it off. If they could do it, anybody can.
yeah, we'll yeah. Like I said, I'll get weird because we were talking about growing and everything, and having more curators come on, and I think having more curators come on, and having you help out there a little bit will really help us grow a lot more too. So, and one of the next things I'm going to do is start advertising some of our stuff on Reddit as well. What the hell's this? Windows Defender just popped up. Oh, fuck off, Windows Defender. Like scared me. Fucking noise just happened. I gotta turn a lot of this stuff off because I just rebooted my hard drive the other day and reinstalled everything because it was all fucked up. Um, Sorry, I got sidetracked there. Yeah, what Abyssal's saying, yeah, for sure. You know, having the Second Amendment and having a gun on you at all times is definitely a good way to protect yourself. And if someone's threatening like me and my family, that's definitely what I would do. I do, I do have a bunch of different guns and stuff like that, and I live in a state that has good laws for that. So like it's not a problem for me. Thing you got to watch out is with the federal. Um, I mean, essentially, it's almost impossible to conceal carry in most places because there's a federal law. I don't know if you guys know about this, but there's a federal law that if you're within 1,000 feet of a school zone, they can literally arrest you and put you in jail for 5 years, even if you don't do anything. So it's not really. I think it was like a 2015 or 2014 law. So you really don't have like the Second Amendment right now in the United States because you can just be arbitrarily thrown into jail. It doesn't make any sense why they have a law that says if you're within 1,000 feet of a school zone, and you have a loaded gun on you. So the gun. So here's the situation: you literally have to have your gun locked. It has to be unloaded. It has to be locked in like your car like glove box or in like some kind of a box. And in some states, you actually have to have ammo in the trunk and guns separated. So like you'll have like the guns in the trunk and the ammo in the back seat, or vice versa. So like there's a lot of fucked up stuff like that. And if you bring up like a map of like where you live and you just look around where schools are, you'll see that it's pretty impossible for you to actually conceal carry with a loaded gun on you without actually being a felon. So until they repeal that law, essentially we don't have the Second Amendment for all intents and purposes, like of carrying a gun on yourself. And I have talked with like people who, because there's like police and stuff in my family, and I've talked to them about that type of stuff. And yeah, you they will get you for that. And they have got they've literally arrested a guy, and the guy had to get like the charges repealed. You could probably look this one up, but he was like 970 feet away from a school zone, and they arrested him. And because the law is you have to be 1,000 feet away from a school zone, and this guy literally would look stuff up on like Google Maps, so he was not going in a school zone. He would literally measure it out so he could be sure to take a route that goes outside of it. But then the way they classify school zones is different because the school can own property. So like it might look like it's not a school zone, but it is a school zone because it's like school property. So it's really fucked up. So I would advise pretty much anybody that you look into that federal law because you can get really fucked if you're carrying a gun like that. I've never concealed carry just because of that. I actually have my concealed carry license, and I once I learned about all the laws, I'm not going to conceal carry this because I can't drive down almost any street. If I even walk out of my house and
Well,
get onto a public road, I'm literally in violation. Like no
that's
joke.
act this that seriously supports exactly what you were saying earlier. How because they can't get around our Constitution in any traditional fashion, so they make it
Yep.
so okay, we can pass a law saying you can't be in a school zone, and we can also make school zones well as big as we want, and we can place schools where we want, and we can exactly get around the laws and yeah, screw you in a backdoor kind of way. It's insidious is what I call it. It really is. It's doing harm without being upfront about it. Um, Firearms. It depends. Firearms are the same as arms if your arms are actually on fire, and that only happened to me once, and I was fighting the mountain. So it's a messy story. So that one. I don't know. I don't carry because again too, like I have to make sure I'm not gonna screw up once I get out of here, and probably like I'm hoping to be leaving this time next month. I hope to be on the road down there. I one way or the other if I can pull it off. Again, I can't force anyone to buy my house, but I can certainly give it away practically, and that's pretty much where I'm at. So. If I get that done, I just have to make sure because when you're hunting, you're supposed to look like a hunter and you're supposed to have the orange and you're supposed to do that. But again, I'm a city dude and I have like, a double pistol grip black shotgun with like, cooling shrouds and all the little fun little whistles and straps and stuff. It looks badass. And I'm afraid of like, you know, being on a mountain or in the woods out in the rural areas without a gun. So I'm going to have to get a probably if I don't want to carry like a scary ass home defense gun for the city, I have to get a new pistol or a rifle. But I got to stay square with these people because their hunting laws are fantastic. Like they really only they seem perfectly reasonable. There's no like lotteries or like double rules or weird rules for different time. Of course they have seasons and they want you to protect the population. They don't want you killing bears for fun. They don't want you treating them like the regular vermin because there's not enough of them to, treat them like raccoons. Even though they act like giant raccoons, you can't just treat them as such. Like you can't just string them out like possums or something, So I want to be straight by them, and I'm still trying to like learn how to fit in a culture where you're free. Like I'm scared. I'm scared of nature, but I'm also I don't even know how it's gonna work though because I don't see a lot of what do you call it, rangers like hiking steep ass mountains for fun. Like I don't see them coming around my property very often.
Yeah, I just posted a link there in the chat just to show you guys. But yeah, it's yeah, this federal law essentially makes it so some of the stuff I read on it. See, it's a lot of this stuff is pretty hard to like figure out because some of the stuff I read on it says they can include people who homeschool their kids might actually count as like a as a thing that you can't carry by. So essentially, you
Yeah,
can't conceal carry at all in the United States if that's the case. They could interpret it that way because they can interpret it however they want because they're just reading the tea leaves and making stuff up as they go.
yeah.
So it doesn't really matter if they catch you and you're within the distance. You know you're in trouble. Now, are they going to catch you? Is someone going to randomly just arrest you while you're just walking around minding your own business? Probably not. But if you had to use the gun to defend yourself, or if you had to use the gun for anything, and a cop shows up, I mean, you're done. Even if you
Or
lawfully
if they just
defended
don't like
yourself.
the look on your face and want to frisk you or something, you know what I mean? Like here's the thing. When I explain this to people who think like, when I was talking about how the NSA exists and they record all, like, this is probably going to be filed someplace in a Utah server room, under a government watch, And again, they're not going to listen to it. They're not. They're just going to keep like conversations and text messages and all the information they can. They can get their hands on it. They're going to keep it, and they're not doing that proactively to find anybody. Obviously, they don't use it to prevent anything that I know about. Most of the stuff, what happens is reactively, if they don't like you, or something like that. If they want to up a charge, like say you spat on the sidewalk, okay, well now they have you on a gun charge. It's like, if you step out of line, they can dig out a million things of dirt and they can throw a book at just about anyone because if they I don't like the idea of discretion in enforcement. Like either you enforce the law or you don't. But I don't like it that like, okay, well I do this every day of the week. I do this Monday through Friday, and nobody ever bothers me about it. But if I do it in front of the wrong person, I'm going to get screwed. Like there should be like a clear understanding of what the law is. Shouldn't be like I get away with it on Tuesday but not on Thursdays. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a weird thing. Like, so it's like you're not going to get pulled over for having a broken rearview mirror or something like that. You know what I'm saying? That might not be why you get pulled over, but you get pulled over for having a taillight out, and then all of a sudden, okay, well, your mirror view, they're going to cite you on 7 other things. I don't like it, and I don't know. I just like the idea of people keeping the money they earn and getting by. Again too, like I don't want to like fight this battle. I don't think it's a winning battle, and if people want to live like that, they're more than welcome to. But I want to live in a state that doesn't have like inspections and yearly registrations and things like they seem like petty reasons to be pulled over. You're not committing a crime. You're violating the rules that are put upon you by the state. You're not hurting anybody. You're not doing anything wrong. You have the wrong color sticker. You know what I mean? And I don't want to hear that my catalytic converter is pooping out too much carbon dioxide, and that's why I'm a threat to society. I don't need to hear that because that just makes me laugh and then cry. So again, that's the beauty of the United States. It's the idea. You don't like the way your state's run. Go to the other one. Just leave it. And that's fine. Figure it out. We have modern ways to travel, so you're fine. As long as they don't take away
Yeah.
your freedom of movement, which is the next step. They want to keep you planted, then you're pretty much stuck dealing with them.
I was gonna say too. I posted a few links in the chat there, so you guys could see like an actual case that happened recently. A guy got put behind bars for 10 years in February 27, 2018 for literally exactly kind of what we're talking about. He had a few other things that were tacked onto it because it looks like he was kind of like he had some marijuana or something, and it said he had a loaded 40 caliber handgun. This was in like Washington or something, and this is in Maryland. So I don't like I said, it's the laws are different. Um, in different states, but this says that he was within 1,000 feet of the school zone. He knowingly possessed the firearm on the grounds or thousand school zone. So yeah, it's as soon as you step onto a public roadway, um, is when it starts. So if you're on private property, um, now I'm not a lawyer and I'm not giving any legal. You're okay. So you could literally be on private property across the street from a school, from how I understand it, and you could have a gun in your own house. But as soon as you carry that gun loaded off of your property and onto a public roadway or like a public sidewalk or something like that, you're immediately doing a felony. So, and the thing that's really mind-boggling, if you guys think about it, why do we even have the Second Amendment and conceal carry if we can't use it everywhere? It doesn't make any sense. Like, I can understand them not letting guns into like a prison or into like an airport or
Or a
something like
state
that.
building. If they don't want them in the courthouse, it's state property. They can say that. It's like if I don't want them in my Walmart, that's fine. You don't bring guns into my Walmart. But again, they're gonna have a hell of a time doing business in a lot of places if they put a rule like that out.
Right. And then Abyssal says also you can't go in a post office or a parking lot. If you're in the post office parking lot and you have a firearm, that's illegal. Yep, he's right. I've read that too. And that, like I said, that's why I don't even carry it, because you know what? If you accidentally go to the post office and you don't even like remember you're carrying or something, you know what I mean? So it's like you don't even want
Yeah.
to deal with that. It's
I
such a
I heard of a woman from New Jersey who she was a victim of all sorts of traumatic violence, and she was tired of having to succumb to just all of the awful things that kept happening to her. So she went out and got a gun, learned how to use it, did everything right. She got a license in New Jersey. She did everything right, but she was lost one day on the highways, and she went too far. Noticed that she had driven past state lines into New York, took the first exit, was in a place where she made some minor traffic violation because she was lost, got pulled over, and because she didn't have the proper New York permits. This is like a mother of three and a full time worker and everything else. You can imagine little kids in school. They arrested her and put her in jail for like 10 years as well. Um, and again, like, because she had a firearm with her and she was only allowed to have it in Jersey, but the rules changed. And again, she didn't intentionally go to New York. She didn't intentionally break any laws. This is what I mean. Like, this is where discretion should come into play, but doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, this is why it's abused in weird ways. Like, and I'm not picking on the police. I'm saying everybody who's an authoritarian can do this and often do. Like, nepotism exists, favoritism exists. People just are in bad moods some days. The principal at your school is the same way. I'm sure it's just the way and she got literally the harshest penalty possible, and there was like certain minimum. The minimum sentencing thing. It's like, okay, why do we even have a judge? You might as well have a robot sitting up there. What is the judge even doing there if he doesn't get to, if he doesn't get to sentence the person? I don't even
So are you
understand.
saying in New York they have a minimum sentencing? Because I don't really know anything.
Well, it was an older story. It was just something that came to mind. I don't know if anyone. I mean, I could probably pull it up. I don't know. I don't know how late you want to go tonight, but it just reminded me how like completely accidental this woman's crime was, and I totally believe her that she was like she had her two kids in the car. She wasn't like going to rob a 7-Eleven. You know what I mean? A person like her doesn't have time. She's working too often. You know what I mean? You're working 60 hours a week. You don't have time to rob 7-Eleven. You're at the cash register already. You know? You don't have time for that shit. So all she did was she drove too far on the highway system and tried to turn around in a place she was unfamiliar with. You know? It was a pain in the ass. Like it made me, scared. Like I'm gonna have to travel with my firearms, but I'm gonna have them in the back of a U-Haul. And I'm gonna have them completely locked up. And it's not. I don't even need. I don't have a big stockpile of ammunition. I have enough. I can just get. I don't even know how to dispose of ammunition properly. I don't think throwing them in the trash is a good idea. I mean, taking them to the range is my only idea. Properly disposing of ammo. That's the only way to do it. But yeah, all my friends moved out of state, and I totally. I remember about 100 times where I'm like, nah, I don't feel like going to the range, and now I'm sitting there like, oh, fuck. I miss it so much. You don't know what you got till it's gone, though. You know. But yeah. So I don't know what the hell to do about that except hope for the best. Like maybe driving in a U-Haul 5 miles under the speed limit's gonna keep me safe. You know. But even then, like I don't plan on getting lost. I plan on like bringing my own food. Maybe I get an extra gas tank somehow. Like get some put it in the back so I don't ever like get, you know what I'm saying? It's just like I don't want
Well,
to
you
I
could
don't want
always
any
go
problems with
to
that.
let's say if you're really that worried about it, gun dealer, figure out how to just have them send it to another gun dealer to the place where you're moving, because gun dealers can like send stuff to one
Yeah.
another. I'm pretty sure they have like a license for that,
If
so
it
you
was
could
like
like look into
you're right
that.
about that, you know, but if it was like $50, you know, I don't think the firearm I have it's more like again too I've taken it out on like the 4th of July and used like black powder bird bombs out of it and just treated it like crap, you know. So if it costs like more than a couple $100, if it was going to be like $300, I'd probably just build a new rifle, you know. But I don't know. I bought like the receiver used anyway. That's why I care about it. I bought the receiver used and I took it all apart and I learned how it all worked. And then I bought custom parts when they lifted the stupid gun ban back in the early 2000s and got all sorts of fun stuff for it. I really haven't done much in a long time, but I usually help my buddies work on their guns nowadays, you know, because they have the AR-15. They bring over like a new trigger. I'm amazed at how simple these machines are. You know, like taking apart a trigger mechanism is like looking at a mousetrap. It's just a spring. It's really not like high
Yep.
technology. You know, that almost frightened me in a way. It's like, oh, that's something I could make in a machine. No, you know what I mean? You can get that at Walmart if and then you could weld it together or whatever. But yeah, anybody with a basic mechanical knowledge can do this kind of stuff. So it also makes these like gun bans. Like I look at the Democrats proposing like we're gonna ban bump stocks. It's like, have you ever seen that YouTube video of the fat guy with the pistol that bounces off his belly so fast it looks like a fully automatic? It's like you're gonna ban rubber bands too, and what else you guys got? You're gonna ban springs. Have fun with that. It's what they keep thinking they can get away with doing. But now, again, don't alter firearms. I'm not saying you should do that, guys. I'm just saying, like, the bad people who are not going to pay attention to these silly Democrat proposals are the ones that don't give a shit. Not guys like me that aren't gonna. I don't have a bump stock anyway. I don't want one because I actually like to hit my target. I'm actually doing it for sport. You know what I mean? And if I do hunt, there's no way in hell that I would ever have any of those weird gimmicky toys. I would want to make sure I'm as humane as possible while I do it. So these stupid laws don't affect people like me. They don't. They're only for like. And again, the people who are going to break them are going to break. They're planning on doing something awful. So like a misdemeanor isn't going to dissuade them from doing something atrocious. That's why I feel like they don't live on planet Earth sometimes, or they're being dishonest. Like they're trying to get around a rule that they can't amend the Constitution, so they're going to try to get around it and bag us in a backdoor way. I hate the idea, but it really seems more and more prevalent. What is a crank
Yeah,
fire?
crank fire, like
What
the
is that? Yeah.
let's see. That's not crank fire. That's an NPC. You posted patience.
Uh, Crank fire. I mean, if you're talking about Wolf Blitzer, he counts as a crank firing off all the time. He's gonna turn into fucking what's his name? Larry King. Remember the Crypt Keeper was on CNN? Wolf Blitzer is the new Larry King. He's so out of touch, and he's like propped up on like a million. It's like marionettes with prescriptions. I bet. I mean, allegedly. I'm not slandering the man because I don't know what his doctor is feeding him under the table, but the guy seems like he's so out of it, and he's only gonna get weirder and weirder. Might be fun to watch if you're cruel like sense of humor like mine. I've seen
Oh yeah,
online.
he's saying the crank fire thing. I think I know what he's talking about. There's a kind of like earlier Gatling guns, or like there's some rifles that have a crank on the side. Like, when those little monkeys like are cranking that little box, and like a thing
Yeah,
pops up or whatever, like a
organ
gesture
grinders.
box. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, organ grinders. It's funny, this NPC meme. I mean, it is probably one of the funniest things. And I was actually saying this earlier. I've been doing a lot of libertarian writing this week, and I wanted to make sure people knew that's, because I don't get it. I don't talk to a lot of liberals because they don't necessarily want to talk to me. But I don't need to talk to them. They're not as interesting as they used to be because, yeah, I already know what their position on everything is. They're the most virtuous, awesome people, and everybody else is terrible. You know what I mean? So I want to encourage people to, if they want to be not Republican, to at least be libertarian, because if you meet a libertarian, you have to ask him what his positions are. You don't automatically know exactly where he stands and what he's going to say about every single issue before he opens his mouth. But if I talk to a Democrat, it's like, oh, so you're pro this, you're pro that, you're pro this, you hate this, and I don't even want to bother like explaining to them that socialism is bad at this point, because like they're so brainwashed and out of it that they're not going to hear what I have to say, and like to me that makes them extremely less interesting as a person. They're just less interesting. They seem belligerent too, because if you don't agree with them, they hate you, and that's fun to be around, you know. So it's pretty funny too, because I've been saying the word NPC for I don't know what since 1985 or something like that. So to see it catching on like this is sort of like a tip of the hat to my like retro nerdy side, I dig that, and I love that one too. They live, dude. We could redo that entire movie with this fucking meme. Oh man, I just was inspired. I don't have the time, and I don't know if I'd get sued for doing it, but that would. Oh, dude, I know my next jack-o'-lantern too.
Yeah, make an NPC jack-o'-lantern this year.
That would be funny. I have all liberal neighbors too. That might make me well. If they smashed it, I think that would be even funnier. If they just smashed the NPC one and they left the other ones, I would think that would be a hoot. But yeah. Oh man.
Home in the desert.
We ain't found shit. Oh man, I don't know. So where we at now? Actually, let me check. What else we got going on? We've been on about an hour and 37 minutes. I think feel like wrapping up soon, bud.
Yeah, we could wrap it up. I'm getting pretty sleepy.
It was a fun one. I think we got to some good stuff.
Yeah, thanks for hopping in and chatting with us, Patient Zero and Abyssal. Good talking to you guys like always, and we appreciate the memes. The meme war is never done. What was this one? Give me half of your stuff. I like that Freddie Sanders one. That's a funny one. I've never seen that one. I think we're going to see some really good ones within the next few weeks leading up to the election. I feel like everybody's combing through everything and trying to figure out how what the best one's going to be. I think we're going to see some really inspirational stuff here.
That's so funny because it's amazing to me that these people who claim to be liberals have become like puritanical, and it's like the NPC 3PO. Like I could just picture these guys. My word, did you hear what he said? We need to ban him. Like getting all prissy about everything. It's like the manly men getting all prissy about people offending their feelings. They're alive ones. These people who are pretty talented online that they can superimpose the image over their acts. They go out and do interviews with these NPC weirdos, and they say the same thing. It is literally funny. They say the same thing verbatim. That's what's crazy, and I don't know if they realize they're doing it or not. I mean, it's hard to say. That Marco Rubio thing was pretty funny. He didn't win any fans online for pretending he didn't know who Alex Jones was.
I like some of these stormtrooper ones I'm looking at with NPC faces. Stormtroopers, it's hilarious.
Yeah, man, the live ones. I'm gonna probably be doing that probably in the morning. Sunday I try to. I can't stop laughing, man. Oh, I've been. See, okay. Just so you guys know, I have the image slideshow up in the corner. If I can, I'm pretty sure I can use these because of the nature of them. It's if it's Alex Jones, especially, it's all open source. I'll double check, but I know what the image slideshow is going to be next week. I know exactly what I'm doing with it now, man. Holy fuck. I've been waiting for this to
Man, you've got
happen
a
for.
ton of these memes on here. It's
I've been hoping for like 2 months we'd get this kind of chat going in the Discord because my face is starting to hurt from how much I've been smiling. Gray lives matter.
Great lives matter.
And they have the Beto flag. Ah, that's fantastic. Yeah.
These are hilarious. All right, let's end it there on a
Yeah.
great note.
Definitely. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, make sure you guys support the meme war by making your own NPC memes, and you can make some NPC memes and use the hashtag meme war and put information war on it, and put a little bit of a description in it, and we'll upvote it. Tell us why you think it's a good meme. We should probably do a contest on that too. It's a good idea. We'll have to talk about that. Anyway, you guys want to help support what we're doing, make sure you like our YouTube channel, subscribe to us, share all the links with your friends, tell them to check out our Discord, get people to sign up for Steam It. It's even easier and faster to sign up to Steam It now that they've had a hard fork 20. So should be pretty fast to get an account now. So make sure you tell everybody to sign up to Steam It, have them help out the Information War, check out the Information War tag, follow the @Information War account so you can see all the stuff we're doing. And we have some links down below in the description. We're sponsored by, so if you guys make some purchases through either of those two, the Virtual Shield or the My Patriot Supply, we get a commission. So go check that out for survival gear, water filters, long-term food storage. You can buy stuff through My Patriot Supply, and it helps support us by getting a commission from it. And then we also have the Virtual Shield that will help keep you anonymous online. It's a virtual private network that you connect to that keeps you anonymous and helps prevent all of your data being sold by Google and Facebook, because we all know that they're doing that. And we have some cryptocurrency addresses down there below for Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. If you guys want to donate some crypto that way, you can always send us Steam or Steam dollars directly to the @Information War account. And if you guys are looking for a different way to contribute, you can always follow our curation trail, which is go over to steamauto.com. That's steamauto.com. Log into that with your Steam It credentials, and then you can find the @Information War curation trail, and you can follow that. And what that does is your account will upvote what we upvote, and we have curators who go through and manually upvote everything. And we are not any kind of like bots or anything like that. So we go through and if we make a mistake or something, we'll correct it, and we make sure we do our best to upvote stuff that is in the spirit of the Information War and getting the knowledge out there for you guys. Great talking with you guys as always, and of course, thank you, Greg, for helping out. Greg's been doing a lot of the podcasting stuff, setting stuff up, getting the Discord chat going in the video, and all that kind of fun stuff. Really appreciate that. He's the master of ceremonies, so make sure you guys follow him @GregoryPatrick on Steemit. And as always, good talking with you, man.
Oh, absolutely. It was a good night, dude. I appreciate you hanging out.
All right, everybody. Thanks. See ya.